I came to UnCruise with management experience, and when I applied, my old director said, "You're young and you've got an ego. If you want to work here, you can start as a steward." So I said, okay, I want to be part of this. That summer on the boat was the best summer of my life. The crew camaraderie, the things that we get to do, and the people that we get to meet, the guests that come on the boat. Anytime somebody wanted to teach me something, I wanted to learn it and stick around. There's such an opportunity to learn and grow. And the fact that I get paid to do this, I have to pinch myself all the time.
Hey there, Lead the Team Nation. Welcome back to another episode. Today, I have for you Kirsty Bozlee, who is Vice President of Operations over at UnCruise Adventures Small Ship Cruising. Now, if you're not familiar with UnCruise, they are a small cruise ship company. And let me tell you, we have been on 2 of their UnCruises, and it's been spectacular. And the only thing more spectacular than their cruises are the people working there for them. Their team is mighty. We've had Captain Dan Blanchard, the founder, on before. We've had several of their guides, and I'll put all those links in the show notes. But today, y'all, we get the behind the scenes of what goes on at UnCruise. They are a truly special group, and Kirsty's going to give us some behind the scenes, and we're also going to explore her really interesting background. She brings over a decade of experience at UnCruise, starting from a steward aboard the Legacy, which, by the way, we've been on, and all the way up to her current role of VP Operations. She's got a background rooted in hospitality and passion for customer service, and Kirsty's held, that's right, 8 different roles within UnCruise, showcasing her versatility and dedication to the company. Kirsty, welcome to Lead the Team.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited.
Yeah, we're going to have a good one today. So let's start out with, how did a challenging moment in your leadership journey highlight your commitment to standing up against injustice, even at a potential cost, and ultimately strengthen your team's morale and sense of support? I'm intrigued.
Yeah. So that was kind of one of the not challenging moments, but one of the moments that I really look back on that has shaped me. I was a new hotel manager with UnCruise, and so they were important guests to be on the boat. And my boss was actually on the boat as well. And it was one of the last few days of the trip, and one of our stewards, who was Black, went up to serve the table. And these guests said, "Can you go back and get us a nice white server to come and serve us?" And she didn't bat an eye, and she just said, laughed it off, and started to serve the table. And throughout the night, this just progressed, where they were just making comments to her, speaking about her in different ways. And so finally, she came and reported it to me and said, "Hey, I'm having trouble with this table. Can you come help me?" And I just thought that maybe they were being a little too intoxicated or what was going on. Went up and spoke to the table. They were completely pleasant to me. I am a white female, so they were completely fine with me. And so I went back and they said, "They seem fine. What's going on?" And so she starts telling me all of these things that they've been saying to her from the very beginning. And I said, "No, sorry, we're not going to be dealing with this. You're not going to be serving them anymore. I'm going to take over the table." And so I went and let the guests know that we were changing things up. And then they said, "Oh, Kirsty, we don't have a problem with her. We have Black employees that work at our house. So we let them in our house, and they even have the same plates as we do." And I said, "That's it. You need to leave this dining room right now and go up to your cabin, please. You're not welcome here anymore." And that was just my instinct, right? Just remove them from the situation. And so they went back to their cabin, very upset. I went and told my manager, who was there training me, as well as the captain. And they were both kind of, "Oh, I don't know what to do." And I was like, "No, go haul that anchor. We're going back to town, and they are getting off the ship right now. Like, we're just not doing this." And so we talked about it. And my manager, he was so upset about what had happened. But I went and spoke with the guests and said, these are the things that you've said. We're just not comfortable having you on board anymore. Let me help you make hotel accommodations for tonight. I helped them pack their bags. We got back to port. I walked them all the way up the dock, got them in a taxi, wished them well, and had them on their way. And then had the meeting with the employee that had been on the back end of all of this and let her know, like, I'm so sorry that this happened to you. Are you okay? What can I do? How can I support you? Why don't you take tomorrow off? And on our boats, everybody works 7 days a week for 6 weeks at a time. So getting a day off is just not something that we do. And she was just like, I don't need to take the day off. I said, I cannot believe that you were put in this situation. I'm so, so sorry. And she was just, I can't believe that I'm so supported by this company, that you guys would just have my back so much on this and not tolerate that. And there was no call to Dan Blanchard, our owner. This was all happening at 10 o'clock at night. And it was moving so fast. So I was feeling a little bit like, is the company going to have my back? And they all did. And so it was just that moment of that. And then meeting with the team and just listening to how they felt so supported. In the service industry, there's a lot of harsh that you take from customers and clients, but there's a line and it's a very clear line. So that's my story on that one.
Holy smokes. How traumatic for everybody involved in that experience. And it just, I mean, I experienced that story on so many different levels. One, the fact that you had the courage in that moment to take such bold action probably says a lot about who you are, but also the culture of the organization in terms of how you treat people working there.
Exactly. I mean, you have to have everybody's back, and you can't allow people to act like that.
And you're sending a message to everyone working there. Like, hey, this is how we work, this is how we support each other. And here's the thing: some people might be saying, "Well, man, they kick some guests off the ship, some special VIP guests." But imagine how well the staff there treats the people that are guests, everybody else on the boat, right? If they know they're supported, they know how we act around here, how we treat our guests, what's important, right? They're going to perform better, treat people better, and having experienced the 2 different cruises to Alaska and Baja, I'm telling you all, you get treated great on board. And it doesn't happen if that will not happen. I doubt it will happen if everyone on board just feels like another number in terms of working there. Hey, here's your employee ID, your number 5, 6, 7, 8, get back to work. Versus, hey, we got your back in these tough situations.
Yeah, we have core values working at UnCruise, and one of those core values is to be a good shipmate. And that even bridges into our guests, what we call as an UnCruise citizen. And so we just say, everybody on board, you need to be a good shipmate. We're all in this together, and you have to treat everybody with kindness and respect. We've got folks working on board from all over the United States, even some folks that aren't from the United States.
Mhm.
And we have guests from all over, and you just don't know what folks' backgrounds are and their life experiences. So just treat everybody with respect, and we're going to have a great time.
What do you think the biggest misconception about cruises happens to be?
I think the biggest misconception about cruises is that when you hear cruise, people think that it's your big Carnival Princess Disney cruise. They don't realize that the industry is very diverse, and there's all of these different pockets of cruising. There's adventure cruising, like what we do. There's river cruising, and there is the big ships, and then there's a variety within those big ships. And I think people just think big ships, they're just people movers, they're germ boats, and they're bad for the environment. And that's not true. There's just so many variations of cruising. We're as sustainable as we can be. I mean, obviously we need engines to move the boats, but outside of that, we really try to pay attention to our plastic waste, all of our food waste, things like that when you're on board. We're even asking people, what do you want for dinner? So we can make sure that you get what you want, but we're not mass overproducing and then having a bunch of food waste. So it's conscious in that effort, using reusable water bottles, things like that, those measures that we take on board. But I think people just think that they're just litter boats that are gross, that are dumping a bunch of stuff into the ocean. And that's just so not true. I mean, on our Facebook just last week, we highlighted two of our guides were out in the wilderness and they came back with giant trash bags full of garbage that they picked up while they were out there. And so it's just very different than I think a lot of people think.
Yes, that immediately caught my attention. I had read about it, and then once we boarded for our Alaskan cruise, right when you get on there, you get your water bottle like canteen thermoses. And like, hey, this is where you're going to get your water. And there's like a water filling station and all that stuff. It's not a bunch of plastic bottles everyone's using the whole time. And yes, they do go around and say, hey, here's what we're going to have, a couple different options. And they're trying to get and you're not restricted to having that one thing, but you're just sort of trying to give the kitchen a heads up. So like you say, it's not just all these giant buffets that has all this leftover food. There's actually pared down for the people on there and their preferences. It seems like a smart thing to do financially and for the environment, for that matter.
It is, yeah. It helps us on both ends.
What's the worst leadership advice that you've heard?
The worst leadership advice that I've ever been given is it doesn't matter how you get your team to do it, just get your team to do it. It's about the results. And that advice, at first, I was like, okay. And I was thinking about it some more. And it's just so not true. I mean, it does matter. It matters more about how you get your team to do it than the actual results that your team provide, right? It's all about how you get the buy-in and how you communicate with your team and how you empower them. That is what's going to build a strong, cohesive team that eventually will get those results. You might have more mistakes in the beginning, but if your team does not feel valued and empowered and that they have a voice and you're just barking orders at them and putting strict deadlines, you're not going to get the product that you want to get.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, and it's playing the long game. If you're just barking, they're not going to be engaged. They may execute the first time, but good grief, over the long haul. And also, I think about my experience on UnCruise. There are different weather elements to deal with, right? There are the unpredictable storms, or there's an unpredictable guest of some sort. As you've already told, you need to have ideally a staff who's used to thinking and problem solving on their own, and they understand the constraints. And what a great thing to go back to you in that moment.
I mean, it's so true. And there's just so many different logistics that we deal with on board the boat, from how we turn over the cabins on the day that guests disembark and new guests get on the boat, or the way that we're going to run activities. And the fact that even though the managers might know how they want the day to play out, we get everybody's opinion. So everybody gets a buy-in. So some weeks, the steward team might feel like they want to have a designated person that goes around to all the cabins and makes beds, and then a select other group go around and sanitize and clean. And the manager might be like, that's not the most efficient way, but they'll try it. They'll let those stewards see, like, let's see if this plays out. Let's see if you get a longer break today, so that they feel part of the process. And I just think it's a really cool thing that we do here at UnCruise, where it doesn't matter what position you're in. If you think that there's a more efficient or a better way to do something, speak up and we'll give it a try.
So what has kept you at UnCruise for this long? Because it seems like at some point you're like, what? The grass might be greener somewhere else. It may not be, but you're a steward, you're kind of working your way up, and you stuck it out. You've been rewarded for what I can tell, your awesome work, but why?
Yeah.
Why stick around?
So I came to UnCruise with management experience. And when I applied, my old director said, you're young and you've got an ego, and if you want to work here, you can start as a steward. So I said, okay, I want to go to Alaska. I want to work on these cool boats. I want to be part of this. Like a little bit more of, I don't have an ego, because I did have an ego. I just didn't know it because I was young. And so that summer on the boat was the best summer of my life. The crew camaraderie, the things that we get to do, and the people that we get to meet, the guests that come on the boat are some of the coolest people that I've ever met in all of my travels. And being able to meet them and speak with them, I just loved it. So I came back for another summer, and then I started working winters, and then I started filling in the office and learning things, and just kind of anytime somebody wanted to teach me something, I wanted to learn it and stick around. And I think that that's part of the reason why I've stuck here for so long, is that there's such an opportunity to learn and grow. And we just, we want people to succeed and go on and be bigger and better than all of us. So if you want to learn how to do my job, come on in. I'll show you all the fun spreadsheets I get to play with all day. But it's just that environment and the camaraderie between the whole office and the crew, and then the product. The product is amazing. Like kayaking, hiking, bushwhacking, paddleboarding, snorkeling in Alaska. Like the fact that I get paid to do this, I have to pinch myself all the time.
Well, I think you just summarized it so well. I had a very similar experience when we went on our cruise. I mean, I've been on a lot of vacations, and I have never reached out to the CEO and said, "Hey, I want to interview you for our show." That was such a powerful experience, and work with you all. And it's just such an inspired group. And you said the word, I mean, it's the people. Yes, the experiences are great, but there's an element of the people that work there. They have a very adventurous spirit, and they really want others to get to enjoy and experience it too. They have a passion for sharing it. And then the people that are off, like, that are attracted to go on these cruises, they've intentionally opted out for this cruise, all from the big ships or different kind of vacation. And they're just people that it seem like they're true lifelong learners and explorers in the world. It's a lot like summer camp. So over the years, what's been your biggest source of inspiration, and what's a difficult challenge that it got you through?
This is, I think, like probably the most corny answer that I can say, but growing up, I've had like a lot of really good leadership and just work mentors and people in my life that I've been able to look up to. And one of those is my dad. My dad is the hardest worker that you could ever imagine. My dad works in maritime insurance. He's an insurance broker, and he's owned his own company for a while. And just my dad is that person that will do anything for his job. And I've always just looked up to him so much and wanted to be like him. And when I started climbing the management ladder, I said to him one time, I was over at his house, and I said, like, "Dad, are you proud of me?" And he looked at me and said, "I'm going to be proud of you no matter what you do." He's like, "You could not have a job and just live at home with your mom and me. I would be proud of you." He's like, "You don't need me to be proud of you. You need to be proud of yourself. When you go to bed each night, you need to think, I'm a good person and I'm proud of what I've done." And that advice, or that moment with my dad, I think about all the time, because I'm not living my life for anybody else. I have to live it where when I go to bed, I know that I have done the right thing and took care of my team or whatever that looks like, and that was the right thing to do. So in some of the toughest times of my career, I think about that advice, and it's not, is my dad proud of me? It's, am I proud of me?
Man, I love that. I gotta chill. Yeah. Are you doing the things during your day and your career? Are you proud of yourself? And it really takes the goal from an externally driven focus to an internally one. Just boom. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't think people think about it. I think everybody's so wrapped up in how other people perceive us and what other people think about what we're doing. And really just taking that shift to be that internal scope of how do I feel about this? Do I feel like I'm a good person? Do I feel like I supported well? It's just, I don't know. It's the best thing.
So a couple of fun questions now. Done such an amazing job so far. Let's throw some of these. All right. So most favorite excursion.
Most favorite excursion. That is a really tough one. I think I'm torn because I think snorkeling in Alaska is just the coolest thing. It doesn't happen every week. Conditions have to be right, but you can see some really cool things up there in the water in Alaska. But then snorkeling in Hawaii with the manta rays is also an incredible experience. I took my husband out there 2 years ago for the first time to Hawaii, and he's got his mask on and he's hanging onto the dive board, and those manta rays are coming up under him and he's screaming through his snorkel. And it was just that moment. And I'm like, yeah, I do this all the time for work. It's incredible though. And then there's Baja, I think riding the burros in Agua Verde, that excursion that we do with the Romero family is just such a unique experience. Who gets to do that? Who gets to ride burros up this incredibly steep hill in the middle of nowhere in Baja with these beautiful views?
Yeah, and I had heard, maybe you can validate this, that Dan Blanchard, the company's founder, he formed a relationship with them a long time ago. And he stayed with them, or he saved Dan somehow, or was there like some story about that?
There's some story. I'm not quite sure how Dan and Julio officially met, but they go back years and years. And the Romero family is just part of the UnCruise, the group, the family over there.
And it's a big family, or it may include some friends. It is
a big family.
There's a lot of burros and there's a lot of people, and they're all there. Yeah, it is worth it. And I'll say Baja. So this is fresh in my mind because we went in April. Number one, or for me, was that like swimming with the whale sharks.
It's incredible. It's jumping in and seeing those huge whale sharks right there with their spots, and you're just alongside them.
And it's highly regulated because they spend many months in the same place, I guess, feeding outside of La Paz. And so the government there, they don't want it to turn into like Disneyland. So they've regulated the numbers. So when you go with UnCruise, you get in, but you go with a smaller guy. They break everybody up. And then you go, and the guide's trying to find a whale shark for you to be able to get in and be near and swim with. And we were one of the last ones to find a whale shark. Then we got in, and the woman's face comes out. She jumped in the water. The guide's face, as she brings her face out, and then she's just crying. And we're like, "Oh God, are we in trouble? Is there something else better?" She's like, "No, you don't know how lucky you are. There are 5 whale sharks all around us right now, including a 30-foot adult."
Oh my gosh.
And these are the most peaceful creatures. And it was part of our group was in the water, part of our group was waiting to get in. But we were already in there. And everywhere you look, they were just all around us. They're such peaceful giants. And then the 30-foot flicked its tail one time and took off like a bullet. It's amazing how they barely move. And of course, you've got flippers on, and I'm flipping and trying to keep up. And I do for a little while. But you're really swimming with these peaceful creatures. You're not allowed to touch them, and they make that clear, but you're up pretty close. And I don't think I've ever had an experience anywhere near that. And that's an UnCruise magic moment.
Yeah, I mean, it's an incredible experience to be swimming next to those whale sharks. But you are right when you say you are trying your best to keep up, and they are barely moving a muscle, it feels like, and they're going so fast, and you're just swimming as hard as you can to keep up with these creatures, but they're so gentle and beautiful. And it's just incredible to be in the water just watching them.
Yeah, and the other Baja one was, there were many, but the swimming with the baby puppy sea lions. Now, some people say sea lions are scary. You don't need to be near them. But y'all, this is done very safely. And it's hard to explain, but they call it the rookery. It's like a nursery for baby sea lions. And the parents they don't really care. They're like around on the rocks and they're being observed by people like protection type people, but there's never, but they get up near you. My daughter had her life jacket on. It was not, it's sort of like a backup jacket in case you need it. And there were some straps hanging down. And I mean, those baby sea lions were pulling on them and were pulling on her hair. It was so funny. It's just
they like to play like tug of war. So they'll grab your flipper, or if you've got camera string or something, they'll grab it and they'll play with you. And it's just so much fun.
Yeah, I could have been there. I could have stayed a long time if it didn't smell so bad.
It does smell bad. It's a smell that you won't forget.
All right,
but they're just big puppy dogs that are in the water. And then when they get too big, then we don't need to play with them anymore. Right. Then we get out of the way.
Right. Yeah, they have people kind of like spotters. And if the adult male sea lions get in the water, I guess you can tell if they're getting agitated because they blow bubbles. If they blow bubbles, then the spotters say, hey, you need to back off, give them their space and all that. But we felt very safe. And man, it was so good. So cool. All right. Next question for you. Don't have too many more questions, but I have this question here.
Okay.
What is your most memorable UnCruise experience as a tourist or as a cruiser? So not working there, but as a guest.
Yeah. So, I mean, in my position now, I get to go on the boats in more of a guest role. So I go and do ride-alongs or audits, things like that. And I think it's hard because my most memorable thing is also still very much from like a company perspective, right? But we had some guests on the boat who it was like a special week for them. They had a birthday, I think they had a graduation, and then the grandfather of the trip was not with them because he had recently passed away. He was supposed to have come on this trip with the family. So it was a little bit of celebrating all of these things, but also mourning the grandfather. And the crew did everything that they could to make this trip so memorable for that family and all the other guests. But they didn't just put all of those celebrations together. They kind of pulled each thing out. And so for the graduation, they decorated the cabin with graduation decorations. For the birthday, they threw kind of a birthday party. And then the captain had approached the grandmother and said, would you like to do something special in memory of your husband? Is there something that we can do? And so they did a little private wake sort of ceremony on the back of the boat. And the grandmother actually had, surprisingly, some of the ashes that she was going to scatter in Alaska on that trip. And they did an ash scattering off of the back of the boat, very private with the family. And I just thought it was so cool. They could have just treated these guests as if they were any one of the rest of us and they were just on this cruise. But the crew took that time to really speak to each other and figure out how to make this the most memorable trip. So even just from being a guest on the boat, even if I didn't work at UnCruise, I still think I would have been like, what a cool place that they really care. And for me as the VP, it was just really, it was a proud moment where I was like, these people that work on our boats, they care. They care about what we do and the people that come on our boats. And it was just really nice to see.
I love that story. And I got a chill hearing it. And I just think about my family and I, and we're going to look back on the vacations, and we do this, look back on the different vacations we've taken. And some people, I mean, I think people underestimate, okay, yes, we're taking pictures and we're having memories, but you're also informing your children's mindset on what vacations are supposed to be like. Do you seek out a vacation where you're just another number, where you're just like chilling out and there's nothing wrong with relaxing, but if you plant the seed of, hey, we're going to do something new, we're going to push our comfort zone a little bit. We're going to get outside of our norm, and we're going to do it with people that care about us, care about experience, and we're going to reciprocate them. Like we're going to reciprocate to the people that are there how much we appreciate them. And I saw it when I was there. The people are with, we love the staff. And it
They
just creates
do.
something different, something special.
Yeah, we on some of our trips we do like an open mic night, like a talent show one of the nights instead of a presentation. And the open mic nights that I've been a part of, it's very common for a group of guests to either write a poem or a song or come up with a dance or something about the trip that they've had on board. And just hearing how appreciative and how much they love the crew and the experience is just incredible. And so many of our crew stay in touch with our guests and go and stay with them at their houses or become part of that family. And it's such a cool experience where you get to meet that. And I love what you're saying about teaching your kids how to travel in that way with where you're making experiences. Relaxation is great. There's obviously a time and a place to go sit on a beach somewhere and just relax. But just exploring the world and seeing what's out there is an incredible thing to do.
And I have not found something I would say better than UnCruise. And I've tried in terms of multi-generational travel, first of all, not easy. Adventure can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And the food, the people, the experiences, the whole thing. And you just got to get on board.
Yeah,
And
we have families that come on board that have 9-year-old children and 80-year-old grandparents and everything in between. And they're going out and they want to go on a kayak all together. They want to go on a hike all together. And our guides are able to accommodate that with the varying skill levels and abilities. And it's just an incredible way to travel with your whole family. Or if you are just a go-getter, you're running 10 miles a day, this is also still the trip for you because we have the hard charger activities where you're going out. We do all day kayaks, or one thing that we do, I don't know if you did a yak and whack when you were up in Alaska, but that's a kayak in the morning and bushwhack in the afternoon.
Yes. And let's just say I slept well that night.
Yes. Yeah. People do say that they need a vacation from their vacation when they get off the UnCruise because it's just so active.
It is so active. Although some people opt out not to do it. And you have activities that are more relaxing where they're still getting out into wilderness, but they don't have to be so hard charging. I think we pretty much sign up for every hard charging thing possible. But some people went back and forth. They're like, hey, I'm going to go hard at the beginning. And the second half of this thing, I'm going to be hanging at the bar and just relaxing. And that's fun too. But I'll tell you what, we stay in touch with so many of the people that we have been on cruises with. Through UnCruise, and including staff. So I'm just validating. I'm just saying what Kirsty's saying is, exactly right. Because we fall into that boat, no pun intended.
Well, I've had guests that have sailed with me and they're come on a group of 6 and they're friends, and you start asking questions like, oh, how long have you known each other? You college friends? Where did you meet? And I've had guests multiple times that say, oh no, we all met on our first UnCruise, actually. And then they continue to keep in touch with each other via email or whatever. And they plan another trip to go on it with each other. And I just think it's so cool.
Well, awesomeness, pure awesomeness over at UnCruise. And Kirsty, thank you so much for coming on the show today, sharing your personal journey. I'll say a huge leadership challenge that you face and how you handled it. I think we all learned a lot from that. And also some insights on what it's like to be a leader at UnCruise, as well as a guest. What's your parting thought for our listeners today?
Oh, I don't know. I was supposed to have a parting thought. I guess my parting thought would just be just however people decide to travel or experience things, just like you were saying before, getting out of your comfort zone and not being afraid to try new things is definitely my biggest advice for people in the travel and leadership too, right? Just getting out of your comfort zone sometimes can put you into a better comfort zone.
All right. Thanks, Kirsty.
Thank you.
Bye.